Hello and welcome to LA Times Today. I'm Spectrum News 1 anchor Lisa McCree. And for today's top stories, let's check in with the Spectrum Newsroom.
I'm Spectrum News 1 anchor Amrit Singh. A Navy F-35 jet crashed into a Fresno County field last night, moments after the pilot safely ejected from the plane. The crash occurred near the Naval Air Station Lemoore. Video from the Fresno County Sheriff's Office showed the wreckage of the jet burning in a cotton field. Emergency officials found the pilot with a parachute in a nearby field. He's expected to be okay. The cause of the crash is being investigated. The Pentagon says it is withdrawing another 1,350 National Guard troops from Los Angeles. President Trump ordered more than 5,000 National Guard members and Marines into LA in June, purportedly to quell public unrest over immigration raids. The Pentagon says approximately 250 California Guard will remain in LA to protect federal agents and buildings. And that is today's Essential California.
It's a nightmare. It's apocalyptic.
It's all gone. It's all gone.
Los Angeles, of course, is still recovering from the devastating wildfires that ripped through the Pacific Palisades and Altadena at the beginning of the year. And now forecasts predict that this wildfire season could be exceptionally dangerous. The Trump administration has made cuts to 3 federal agencies that play key roles in fighting fires and could put California at a major disadvantage. LA Times environment reporter Hayley Smith brought us the story. Hey, Hayley, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right, lay the bad news on us, the predictions, the forecast for this season.
Yes, so the National Interagency Fire Center is calling for an above normal fire season in California and across the Northwest this year. And this is due to a number of factors. If you remember, we had really wet winters in 2022 and 2023, which promoted a lot of new growth and grasses and vegetation across the state. But then last winter, and really the last 8 months overall, have been notably warm and dry here, which have dried all that vegetation out. So you couple those conditions with the forecast for a really hot summer and a really dry summer in California, and we're looking at a potentially explosive situation with many large fires this year.
Yeah, and Hayley, you've explained to me in the past how our Earth is thirstier in these conditions, right?
Yeah, that's partly due to climate change. And as we see conditions are getting warmer, it does make the atmosphere thirstier, which is sucking even more moisture out of the plants. So you can really think of all of our hillsides and landscape as sort of kindling at this point. It's like a tinder box. So the first spark can really make an explosive fire.
All right, in the midst of all of this, Donald Trump has been making some dramatic cuts to agencies that help us defend ourselves or predict, right?
Yeah, so I've been writing a lot about the president's changes to various federal agencies. We've seen layoffs and office closures and grant cancellations and all sorts of things, which he says are going to help save taxpayers money and cut through a lot of, federal waste. But I started to think about how these 3 agencies in particular, the Forest Service, the National Weather Service, and FEMA kind of form this trifecta that really support California's firefighting capabilities because they help us predict when fires are going to happen, they help us prepare our forests for fires, and they help us fight the flames when they come, and then they help us with disaster response after fires move through. So there's been changes at all of those agencies, which I'd be happy to get into.
Yeah, walk us through. Let's start with the Forestry Service.
Yeah, so the Forest Service manages more than half of the forest land in California, and they're also the largest federal firefighting agency. And so in recent months, the Trump administration has laid off thousands of people there, and the goal is to get to about 10,000 people, or 30% of its workforce, either laid off or taking buyouts. Wow. So like 30%. Now, the agency has said that firefighters are excluded from this, but there's more to the story than that, because the layoffs do include people who, scientists who study the landscape, people who work on fuel reduction and forest management, conducting thinning and prescribed burns, and then all kinds of workers who do things like, oversee equipment, who run IT. I mean, all of these people serve important roles. and they're going to be gone come fire season this year.
Recently, Haley, there was a video that went viral from a Florida weathercaster.
The quality of the forecasts is becoming degraded. There's also a chance, because of some of these cuts, that NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft will not be able to fly this year, and with less reconnaissance missions, we may be flying blind.
And he was saying that he couldn't predict hurricanes anymore because all these cuts were being made to NOAA.
Yeah, so NOAA, which oversees the National Weather Service, is another agency that's seen considerable cuts. They've lost thousands of people this year. It's already gotten so bad that they've stopped sending up weather balloons in some locations, which gather a lot of weather data. And 2 Weather Service offices in California no longer have enough staff to run 24 hours a day. And that's Sacramento and Hanford, which together oversee pretty much all of the Central Valley and the Sierra, which, as we know, are 2 of our most fire-prone regions.
All right, and then FEMA, perhaps the most public-facing, right, of these agencies. When trouble strikes, people expect FEMA to roll in.
So FEMA has also lost about 2,000 people, about 30% of its workforce. And as you mentioned, they're so important to us. They don't just respond after disasters, setting up shelters and aid and things like that. They also provide funding for states to do disaster preparedness work, and they help cover up to 75% of a state's costs for immediate firefighting needs. So these programs are getting cut. And in fact, the president has said he's potentially interested in disbanding FEMA altogether.
We want to wean off of FEMA, and we want to bring it down to the state level.
He believes that disaster response is something that should be managed at the state level and not at the federal level.
Hayley Smith writes about the environment for The Times. Hayley, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Coming up, a suspected killer called 911 from the victim's home. So why did it take police days to find the bodies? More on that when LA Times Today continues. The man accused of killing a former American Idol producer and her rock musician husband called 911 from the victim's home the day of the murder. And yet, it was 4 days before police discovered the bodies. The revelation came after LA District Attorney Nathan Hochman held a recent town hall in Encino, where hundreds of residents gathered to vent their frustration at the pace of crime and police work in their community. Richard Winton covers crime for The Times and joined us. This story just got weirder and weirder. Richard, thank you for being here. Tell us first about the murders and the victims.
So basically, there were 2 people murdered here, Robin Kay and Tom DeLuca. It's in their Encino house. Basically, they come home one day, like every other day around 4 o'clock, and someone shoots them inside their house.
Police had visited the house twice that day. Explain.
Okay, so about 4:10 p.m. that day, neighbor calls, says, "Hey, I just saw someone jump over the wall into this house. This person doesn't live there. I think there's a burglary going on or something else. Can you come over? Come check on it?" About 10 minutes, around 10 minutes, just under 10 minutes later, helicopter of LAPD flies over the property, reports basically nothing. What it turns out is the suspect, Mr. Bedurian, had already entered the house and he was inside. And when this couple came home, they came into the house and lo and behold, they discovered him there.
There's another phone call that happens that day, another 911 call, and this is where it gets really strange.
Yeah, sometime around about 4:50, the person who is eventually arrested for murder in this case makes a strange call to the LAPD from his cell phone, and on the call, he seems to say someone's going to shoot him, and then it's very nonsensical. It's not quite make sense. The LAPD at that stage responds and goes to the house, but can't get in because it turns out this house has got a very big wall around it and a security gate, and they don't have a code to get through it, so they look around, can't see anything. They leave.
And 4 days later, they return.
Come Monday, friends of the 2 now missing people call the LAPD and say, can we get a welfare check? And I'm going to give you the gate code just to make sure. So LAPD officers turn up, they punch in the gate code and they go in and they look, and then they see blood on the porch and they become suspicious and they actually punch out a window and break into the house. And once they get inside, they find the bodies of Robin Kay and Tom DeLuca.
Residents are mad, Richard. This is the third time LAPD officers in the Valley have responded to 911 calls and left the scene only to later discover a homicide has occurred.
Yeah, I mean, it happened in Valley Village. They went, they got neighbors in this big apartment, fancy apartment complex say, oh, we heard, this fight going on. It sounds like life and death. Cops go there, bang on the door. It's all quiet by the time they arrive. Can't get in. They leave. Turns out, in all likelihood, the owner of the property was now probably dead on the floor, was stabbed to death. Similarly, in Woodland Hills, they got a 911 call of an incident. They went to the house, didn't discover a guy. It turns out he'd been beaten to death and his girlfriend had been held hostage, essentially, inside the house. Each time they went there and basically had to come back later to find out what had actually happened.
How'd they finally catch this guy? Who is he?
This guy in this case, well, obviously, one of the things they had, he'd actually called them on his cell phone, so they knew who he was. And he has a pretty, it's not a lengthy criminal history, but it's an interesting criminal history involving mental problems. He's been charged with battery and other sort of violent acts. But eventually they identify him basically from the investigation because they could have known right away who he was. In fact, one of the great questions here, which we don't know the answer to, and maybe the LAPD does at this stage, is, was he still in that house when those officers came?
Nathan Hochman, our district attorney, held this town hall for residents who, again, are frustrated. Did it do anything to ease their fears or just make it worse? And is the LAPD mad about it?
Mr. Hochman also revealed that they were shot with their own gun. The Hochman comments in the meeting probably enraged the community somewhat and shocked everyone because the level of kind of like complacency and the weird behavior and why, delays, and this seems to mean a repeated pattern, kind of freaked everyone out. There was some reassurances from the LAPD about crime statistics, which they are better than they were. There certainly are. But people obviously about an incident so hits home, someone inside a house not being discovered, freaks out, obviously, any community.
Richard Winton writes about crimes for the Times. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Coming up, anxious about what's going on in our country? Well, maybe you could use a little sidewalk therapy. That story when LA Times Today returns. The LA Times video series, Hear Me Out, allows readers to expand on letters that they've written to the editor. In this latest episode, longtime performance artist Denise McCandless takes her sidewalk therapy booth all around Los Angeles to help fellow Angelinos with what she calls Trump-induced anxiety. Now, more than ever, attendance is booming.
The doctor is in. My name is Denise McCandless, and I run the Therapy booth. Okay. Well, first of all, I have three things that I always have to have close to the booth when I decide where I'm going to go. Parking space, yay. Parking, shade, and a bathroom. So those are the three. I'm 5 foot tall and really small, and so getting this booth out, it's like, is as big as me, taking it out and all the pieces that go to it and pushing it. Whoa. I already saw a regular today. They'll be back.
I wrote a letter to the LA Times because I saw an article about the demographic of the protest being older. And at my booth, I have found that the demographic is also older.
So what is the Third Trumpy booth? I am helping people with Trump-induced anxiety. I stole it from Lucy, the Peanuts, and I came up with this booth and decided to just take it all over the city and help people. It's a booth where people can have a conversation about what's happening in this country and talk about maybe what we can do. It's to make people laugh, make me connected to like-minded people. The reason I'm here is you've got to find humor in the darkness, or just try to make people laugh. You know, every day you go, what next?
I have a lot of fear because I have to carry a passport and ID because look at my skin, I'm brown.
Kamala Harris's in-laws came by one day. They were walking and they loved it, took a picture. I've had people, their engagements fall apart because the parents of the guys said, she's not a Trump supporter, you're not marrying her. Most of the stories are relatives that aren't speaking. Families are broken apart, and my family is it's kind of heartbreaking, really. My wife of 33 years died of cancer a little over 2 years ago. So she was alive when I did the booth. She loved it. And now it's my savior. I mean, the loneliness is incredible, and I can come out and I can meet people, and it has helped me with my grief so much. And I do this booth and I forget for a while. Like, however time I do this booth, I can just forget all that's going on. And I can't forget he's president, but I can help people laugh.
If you'd like to know more, follow Denise on Instagram and TikTok. Well, Southern California is known for our unique surf culture. From Trestles Beach in San Diego County to County Line in Malibu, generations of surfers have honed their skills off our Golden Coast. But as LA Times columnist Pat Morrison recently discovered, new tech could upend this old sport. Here's what Pat says.
The headline was a grabber with just 2 words: electric surfboard. Now, like every reporter, I get dozens of press releases every day, yet this one caught my attention and in a getting mad kind of way. An electric surfboard. What travesty was this? A sport hundreds of years in the cultivating and perfecting, and the strength and control of the human body in sync with the forces of nature, of waves and water, made into some plug-and-play gizmo for any green Grammy or dry behind the ears ho-daddy? Now, surfing began in ancient Polynesia as culture and sport, and 5 years ago became an official Olympic competition. Surfers competed in Tahiti in the 2024 Olympics and will be doing the same here in California in 2028. So how could you stick a motor and a battery onto a surfboard and shortcut these physical skills? Well, I read on. The electric surfboard wasn't a surfboard at all, but an electric hydrofoil hoverboard. Unlike true surfing, if you're doing it right, it isn't even supposed to touch the water. And in this PR pitch, the water it was hovering over was not the ocean water off Hawaii or California. It was Lake Michigan, a lake, and one within sight of Chicago, whose other most famous body of water is a river that they dye green on St. Patrick's Day. All right, so not everyone is fortunate enough to live alongside the Pacific. I'm sure it takes quite some skills to ride this thing. But while the ride is on the water, it's pretty much independent of the workings of the water. Now this is surfing. Duke Kahanamoku was the master of surfing, a celebrated world-class athlete, and he brought it to California, which took to surfing like a duck to, maybe Duke would have taken one of these hydrofoils out for a little joyride, but he wouldn't mistake it for the real deal. Maybe you'll try one of them one of these days, but don't be getting big-headed about being a surfer. And just to keep you humble, here are some award-winning real surfers hitting the water not too long ago in an annual contest in Huntington Beach, Surf City, USA. Hang 8, my dudes.
Thanks, Pat. And that is our show for tonight. Join us again tomorrow for another LA Times Today. I'm Lisa McCree. And from all of us here, thank you for watching and good night.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage. And click the subscribe button here. You can also download our app and watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.